This conference will now be recorded.
So that will change. This time we bring the water out, drain the water out there, eat a flood there. So that will start removing all that sludge, water. It goes to, well, if it meets certain testing requirements, levels for it is to go yep, so there's different cells, so some of the sludge is able to reflect, and some of them is not able to. The water will be treated different.
What will it be discharged? Same rate as it is now, or is it all just
Well,
flow out?
okay, but this is no, that's what happens twice a year that we let it go. Right.
I guess we're just concerned that maybe you can put it in the minutes that the neighbors, Jan and Jackie Zaki, were here showing concern about the project. That's all. We're just here to listen. We took it today, something like time you guys did this project. We lost thousands of dollars. We're just here to show concern and stuff.
But if you're doing it at the same rate you do it now, and you do one time at a time, one segment at a time, you do one segment at a time down the road, or we just start off four at the same time? There is.
Well, they'll be decommissioned in accordance with the schedule of the engineers. And it'll be, like I said, so they get all drained every 6 months. So we will use this. And we don't necessarily be here free for that, it will just be the decommissioned as the wastewater starts coming into the plant. That's not something, I mean, we don't need to say that about probably 18 months, so that's something we can be in touch about. There shouldn't be, there won't be any more water all over what we're doing.
Do you have any concerns that once the wastewater center is up and running, that we will be able to decommission the lagoons? I mean, are you going to start right away sending the process for the city of Peosta through there, or are?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the beauty of the way the system is. It's not how we put the video on a little bit of start, because the lagoon is only there. So we can throw the switch that it's not a lot of opportunity plans. Now, if there's some failure in that immediate 60 days, they could sign it back. We obviously don't need to pay back. And it's really in the specs of the designers and the contractors of those equipment. They have to test those out. We certainly don't understand.
Well, you said capacity. I mean, I know capacity is a big issue.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
But the treatment facility itself, well,
when we come up, we'll only get adjusted.
okay.
Which was a large reason to move to this model.
So right now, there's a trickle flow at certain times of the year. Do you see that it just be a constant major flow with the new wastewater treatment center, or would it still have trickles, some trickle parts to it, or?
It will be continuously discharging, so there are still flow equalization for great events and things of that nature. It's meant to be continuous. There's also continuous discharge in goods or just using plant. But there's also just kind of higher water usage. So the flow can still change, but it won't be like an absolute flow. It should be much more. Same thing with sludge will be consistent through the entire
Do you have erosion control measures set into place so that you're not causing, with more of a constant flow, and more erosion, or?
well, we would anticipate that the flow will actually be, since it's constant, it will be less. So erosion control should work in reverse. There should be less Well, yeah, that's certainly something that engineers have built into the plan. And the discharge site is actually moving. It will still eventually make its way to the same street, but because the site's moving, it will just discharge further out in the street, so.
The only comment on that was, in theory, triple projects cause more erosion than four. So you just have to, that's the whole say. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll have some riffraff.
yeah.
All I have.
So I really appreciate you taking the time to come give the input. We don't get a lot of citizen comment on our public hearings. So it's really good to have you here, bringing up your concerns. Is there something specific that you would like to see the city do to address the concerns you've got based on your past experience?
No.
Some contingency plan that, like, I'm sure you already have this, there's, natural disaster plans and all that, that if something should fail, that down the trickle path isn't destroyed, or like you said, fish can't swim in it, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's probably right in the plan, a contingency or emergency, or something should fail. They own property at Tony did, and they own property further down, about a mile down too, so.
All right.
So there's a plan.
Yeah, there's multiple, Okay.
My mic is on. Oh, dang it.
So is there actually two stations there, like one middle, could be a second pump, or the second unit, or?
We have to have, so we have to have what's called a shelf spare of all of the pumps that are there. And so it's like 50% capacity now, there's a lot of sort of wells and valves that have like two pumps. But we only need one right now for the capacity of we have. Still extra valves so that both pumps can work, so that one doesn't work. And then we also, there's be another very tightly made system. We have a federal grant too, which is great, $3 million, but that also brings a lot of other requirements. They keep it tight. Yeah, I mean, we know that's certainly very close benefit. So a lot of dollars sitting on that shelf.
There is, and a lot of regulations on how we execute this. Yeah, thank you for coming and sharing your concerns, and I encourage you to stay engaged as we keep going through this. So for those in the room, just a little feedback. I've got two comments back that it's difficult to hear what's being said by anyone not directly in front of the computer, basically me. So we just gotta make sure we're talking loud. We'll try that. If you want, go ahead. I'm a little concerned that John's is right underneath the speaker. But we're gonna try putting the microphones on in the room and see if we can do this and not get too much feedback, okay? So that gets us through wastewater treatment public hearing. We haven't closed that yet. Well, let me check online. Were there any other comments online for the part of the public hearing? If there are, make sure you unmute yourself. Otherwise, we appreciate you staying on mute. Karen, you're on mute. Was that the eye? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you, Jim. That's all I hear. I don't know what I just eyed.
Okay, so now we're into the administration, and we said we would shuffle things up a little bit to try to. Oh, sorry, thank you. Keep me honest, Karen. So public hearing's complete. We now have the resolution approving and confirming the plan specs, forms of contract, and estimate of cost for the wastewater treatment facility improvement project.
Can I?
All right, now we will move on to the administration section, and we're going to invite, we'll talk about the space study first, which is item F. And we'll invite Mark, who has come to join us, or Mike, sorry. We'll have Mike go ahead and present to us what you've got for the space study. So when you talk, both of you, please just make sure you're talking extraordinarily loud.
So we,
You want to take one of these microphones? You want to try this?
Yep. Karen, can you hear me? I'll just stand here. No, I don't need to. Yeah, so we, myself, Kelly, and Karen and Mike met with Mike several times. I know, so we started reviewing a number of options. Could we just squeeze into the building where it is? What different renovation layouts would we look at? You know, would you go up, out? So I know we had initially discussed bringing back several proposals to the council. We didn't have to get very far into it for a number of reasons, which I think will become evident that there really, this plan presented is the only meaningful, realistic path forward for this general scenario. So basically, I mean, I think we were able to weed through some of the options that just aren't even feasible. So I mean, I think that really covers it. We had a good conversation and got to talk through a lot of things, and you know, we understand that we don't want to go backwards at all. We don't want to make any workspaces worse or smaller or, you know, less user friendly, but also knowing that we're gonna, you know, we need to look at some alternate solutions. So I think everybody on the committee feels confident that this, for again, this type of scenario, if this is something the council wants to go forward with, this is the best and essentially, I would say, really the only viable option for a combination with a small addition at the police station. Yes.
So we met, like Whitney said, we met several times. The first time we met, we went to program space for City Hall and for the police department. I don't know if you want me to go through each one of those spaces, I should, if you wish. Why don't we just go through them just real quick?
Yeah, maybe a quick, and we'll ask for more detail as needed.
So we want basically what they call it. I'll go through this. So we have an office 8 by 10, and they were requesting they're requesting an office that was approximately 10 by 12 foot 8, which they currently have. A vestibule, a seating area, a conference room, which could be shared between City Hall and the police department, a kitchen. Again, that could be shared as well. A men's locker room, a women's locker room, a booking area, an evidence area, and then an interrogation room. They also were requesting the 4-car sally port.
the garage, if you will. We talked about growth for the department. They don't believe in the next 10 to 30 years there'll be any growth. So we did not program any growth for the police department into this addition. The city hall spaces that we programmed, they were looking at an office that was at least 12 by 12. If not, if we could accomplish an office that was 156 square feet, that would be ideal. One of those. We were looking for 3 offices that were 10 by 12, a male toilet, a female toilet. Again, they were willing to share the conference room and kitchen, a vestibule, a waiting for 2 seats, a storage room that was 8 by 13, no council chambers would be included in the program. And again, we talked about growth, and we see no growth for 10 years. So the program that we have identified has no growth to it at all. That's the program. Like Whitney talked about, we went through several different plan options. The plan that we settled on is probably the most economical. It fits very nicely behind the Sally Port and the evidence area. Now, we did find out the drawings that were provided were off a little bit. I did do some field measurement because of the precast panels that were on the back side of the building, because we'll have to cut holes in those precast panels. And so some of them may have to be removed and replaced. Other of them might be filled in. So that addition ended up being about 1,176 square feet. And it fits the office, a couple of offices that you can see, the evidence area, the interrogation, the booking, and a couple of showers. And that's all police department space. On the other side of that wall where the evidence storage was, we have an office purpose there. And I'm sorry, I don't have an existing plan. I don't know if you have an existing plan of the existing police department or how familiar you are with that, but there's off of the storage area in the back or near that mechanical room, there's a small half bath, if you will. There's a toilet and a lab in there. We're going to repurpose that into a storage area. So that is the space for the police department. Now, the proper portion of the building, which is currently the police department, that's going to get remodeled into the city hall area. So when you come into that vestibule, immediately to the south, you'll see a couple of offices that we've modified. That used to be that conference room. So basically what we're doing is we're dividing that space in half. The other 2 small offices are there, they're existing, we're not touching them. You'll see a conference room that's 10 by 17 foot, or I'm sorry, 16 foot 7. That used to be 2 offices. So we removed that demising wall, if you will, and that has become the conference room, and that's a shared conference room. We have not touched the break room. That will remain as is. Or did we touch those 2 toilet shower rooms? So the showers are extra, a bonus, if you will. In City Hall, we have to provide toilet rooms for City Hall. So there will be some work inside this building above and beyond the 600 square feet, 605 square feet that you see in the cost estimate. And we've included that in that interior remodeling number. So there's some precast panels that we're going to have to modify like we had talked about before. There's a window that we're going to add at that vestibule into that first office so we can have the public come in and not have to come into the building if they don't have to come into the building. So that'll be a secured entrance. We also are going to be required to separate, if you will, physically, the police department from the City Hall. And what I mean by that is these metal stud walls do not go to the underside of the deck. And so if I'm in that police station right now and were to remove a ceiling tile, I could get over the top of it into the police department. So we can't have that. So there's going to be some additional framing and some security that's going to have to be provided. So no one from City Hall can get into the police area. So that's the floor plan. It is very economical. When I first started this, I never dreamt of putting that there. I thought we were going to take City Hall and put their addition on the south side of the building. I thought that was going to be the most economical. We just couldn't make it work because of the site plan. We're so close to the front side of the building. We would have been creating a corridor, if you will, to the backside of the building, which would just drove up the cost. So this is the most economical. Now, if we go to the statement of probable cost, this is an estimate at best. It's based on the 2020 mean square foot book cost. And that's a publication that we use to do an estimate for a project. This is a small project, so you have to add dollars to it. This book is based on usually police departments that are on the small end, 7,000 square feet. We got 1,000 square foot addition. And so the general requirements are more, each one of the subs will be more. That cost for that portion of the work, we think is gonna be around, that addition is gonna be around $400,000. The next line that you see is the interior remodeling and the other items that we discussed. We think that that's gonna be about $91,000 worth of work. There is a design contingency on here, nearly $50,000, because we're in a preliminary design phase. We don't know what we're gonna find when we start removing that ceiling. We don't know how the structure works. We don't know how the footings work. We don't know if the panels go down to the top of the footing. So there has to be some dollars in there for some unknowns. Hopefully we get lucky and we would never spend it if you were to move forward. But those dollars are in there. So right now that cost estimate, we're about $545,000 to do this work. That's what we believe. Now, I'm going to say that tongue in cheek. This publication was developed before COVID hit. So there's nothing in there for if materials would start to go crazy. There's nothing in there if all of a sudden, let's just play one scenario out. All of a sudden, a lot of the work stopped in this area and contractors were really hungry, labor might go down. So it could be a wash. We just don't know. You won't know until you bid it.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
My biggest concern is no room. Could I elaborate on that? I don't want to put any words into Mike's mouth or anything like what you just said, but I believe what he meant by it is growth of the police department, absolutely, we're going to have growth of the police department. But with the building, we should have enough in there. What he was saying, building wise growth, we don't need to expand the building. As a police department, yes, we're going to continue to grow, but we have enough room adequately right now and probably for the next 10 years, I believe that, when officers are going to be out on the street, it won't be in the police department, until we continue to have growth with officers. And we have enough, I believe with the new plan, there would be enough, offices where the officers can share an office if they needed to, because they won't be in the building at all times. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that makes more sense to me as there will be growth within the police department, but in the building side of the transfer, addition wise, we have enough adequate space with that. So, fair enough.
And that's correct.
So how do you say that space? You've got 3 officers, you've got 3 officers. I'm sorry, what was it? We have 3 officers. Correct. 3 officers. Right. So like I said, the officers would share an office at that point.
That's your
Because
because it makes absolutely no sense to leave an office off of this and go back and try to add one office in 10 years. That makes no sense.
We'll talk about this as far as sharing workspace, as far as open floor plan. Right. And then try to get rid of the offices situation doing desks or kiosks. Right. Well, like I said, the officers will be their main priority offices in their squads. So, and they work one shift at a time. They're not doubled up usually, unless something, in the event that happens. So normally there's only one officer on at a time. And with the continued growth of what we would have, there would be enough adequate space for shared offices.
Yeah, to go back and have one open space for that area, you'd be removing a demising wall. So in the grand scheme of things, you're talking almost no dollars.
I want to see
I mean, I think this cleaning in general, it works because it's it works. I think that's kind of, this is how we can make it work. Obviously, you don't need a consultation, that's the drawback. And, you know, parking is really, will always be the, so there's a way to provide parking, which means acquiring those residential properties to the board. That's not really a conversation.
Right. If you were to add parking today, you could do that. It would go on the back side of the building or on the south side of the building. There's still space that the city owns beyond that building that you could add parking. But yeah, yeah.
Was it somebody considered to expand the footprint of the building?
I couldn't tell you. I wasn't here when that was done.
Okay, that was part of this.
No.
You guys were looking.
We didn't look at expanding to the south because it was more economical to locate it where we have it. So we didn't look at putting something to the south side of the building.
How do you know that this is the most economical?
Because you've got to have an entire corridor that's just circulation to get back there. So right now you're able to use the existing corridor in City Hall to get to the police department. And so, right. And so you're adding, not only are you adding the circulation, you're adding a whole bunch of exterior wall. Yeah, that was the very first one that we threw out right away. We just said this doesn't make sense. We just didn't draw it all. There's an inlet back there, there's an inlet back there, and there's a main line that runs to the west. I believe that there might be some other utilities back there as well. But you can pave over that.
So the barriers to buildings, that's not what I'm hearing. There's a barrier, or at least some, and complexity of some. Otherwise, you could, yeah, so it's not sure we need to run there, but it is, we put in some walls, if we.
Right, it's possible, but it's, yeah. But it doesn't seem to be any benefit to that.
According to this drawing, we have the utilities that we have in the back, and this is not a as constructed set of documents that I found in our office. There appears to be a gas line on the back side of that building that we would south side. Where it's green now. There's a gas line that runs from Peosta Street that runs directly to the west. There's an electrical line that runs that starts at where the slope starts to go back up. There is a telephone, there's a couple of telephone lines there. There's a storm line with a storm inlet. Yeah. Right, there's another storm line that runs from the that new parking lot or the existing parking lot that runs along the east side of the building where we were looking at putting that addition to that storm inlet that's on the south side of the building. That would have to be addressed as well if we were to put an addition on that side of it as well. And then on top of it, we're up against the property line, you know, so we would have to come back in and ask for a variance for setback depending on how large that thing was. So it just didn't, from an economical standpoint, it just didn't make sense to do that.
If we wanted to, is there room back there to have a small area like no for chambers?
You could, but the problem that you're going to run into is parking. And so the parking right now, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 11 parking spaces, and one of them is a handicap. So you fit within adding the city hall in here, but when you start to add the council chambers in here, then you don't have enough parking. Correct. You'd have to acquire property. Yeah. Yeah.
Garrett, do you have any questions or any further conversation, any comments?
Thank you. Karen, I was checking to see if you had anything to add to the conversation or questions that you had for Mike.
No, I knew there was a lot of utilities there and I knew there wouldn't be parking space, so I'm just, no, I have nothing to add.
Okay. So as a discussion item, that's all this is. There's no action needed on this at this time. Are we good to move to the next agenda item? All right. Mike, thank you very much. We do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
The other option is City Hall.
My, opinion, like you said, it's worse, but I don't think anybody's. It's probably more expensive. So what you did mention, whether option that or top areas, is that really, the most economical ways to provide conservation fire and not, that's $100. So I'm looking into basically the only other commercial space by post office. I'll follow up because I really be the only one. But if that one has to be, that's really the last thing to work. Yep. So I think. Yeah, we're getting information, maybe we can compare costs and. This mission information, but these were the options, so, yeah, new. So that's how we have to, we definitely. There's still some issue.
so we got more data. We didn't find the silver nugget we were looking for, the gold nugget. So we're going to keep looking. All right. Very good. Thanks for making that happen, Whitney and team. It's good to have the data. So next up, we'll talk about the ATV, UTV presentation. And to do this, we're learning a little bit about this virtual thing. I'm going to turn the laptop around. So whoever's speaking, please start with introducing who you are and talk abnormally loud. For some people, that's more of a challenge than others. But if you would, please step up and we'll try to get you centered in the picture here.
Will you help if I stand or sit? Looks like sitting.
Oh yeah, I can see you up there. Perfect.
All right, I am Tanner Patterson. I'm here with my wife Jolene, and I believe most of you know Jesse Bagley. We are here to present on asking the city of Peosta to open up ATV and UTV access to the city limits. I believe most of you have seen our sort of mission statement, if you will. I'll start with reading kind of the first paragraph of that and then kind of rolling through the rest of it as we go on. We, the undersigned, are petitioning the members of Peosta, Iowa local government to pass the ordinance to allow the use of UTVs and ATVs on city roadways. We're located in Dubuque County, which has recently legalized the use of UTVs and ATVs on county roadways. Our neighboring towns are followed in the movement and have instated ordinance for use of UTVs and ATVs within the city limits. That includes but is not limited to Epworth, Farley, Worthington, and Cascade. So essentially what we're looking at is access not only in our town, but also from our town out to neighboring towns, onto the county roads, and just overall being able to let people who own UTVs and ATVs be able to move around freely. right? For us, one of the things that we do is we'll trailer it to one of the county parks, untrailer right around. Well, when we do that, we always end up buying our gas in Epworth. It's convenient enough when we're riding around, but a lot of times you're done, you trailer it, you're low. It'd be a whole lot easier to go from our house, which we live over on Lara, right up to our local gas station, fill up. You know, if we're looking to grab some juices for the kids to throw in the cooler, some ice, it's all there. You're not having to haul the trailer in and out of the gas stations. You're not having to move around. Very convenient. When you look at other local businesses and the benefits that it would bring to them, it's people driving through the town, right? They can see that we have the rental places. They can see we have the restaurants. They can see potentially the bowling alley that's coming in. They can see all of that. They can see houses that are potentially for sale. Everything out there that is kind of bringing them potentially into our town and helps our town grow, but also allows your restaurants to really bring those people in. You're looking at Dairy Queen and Subway for a quick trip. You're looking at some of the other restaurants like Red Roof or Trackside for maybe a little bit longer stay, right? They come in, they order food, they hang around. It gives those places also a chance to maybe promote some rides or other activities that again bring more people into the town, more business, hit the gas stations, hit the restaurants, in and out, and really helps to promote all of that. So with that, one of the things we did was go around to the local businesses. We hit up 10 businesses. With those 10 businesses, and I believe you guys have all of that at your disposal, out of the 10 we hit, all 10 signed that they were in favor. That was businesses that were both inadvertently related and directly related to a lot of the things I just talked about. Even the automotive shops and stuff said, hey, this is good for us. We work on these machines. We can do different things to these machines, whether it's service, maintenance, aftermarket parts. You know, we didn't hit up the car wash, but the car wash was another one. You know, you go in, you've been riding, you're dusty, you're going to wash it off. So there's a lot of things that I think some of these other towns are benefiting from. The Peosta is not benefiting from. And a lot of that even comes from where we're situated. Dubuque County has opened it up. You have us, which I would consider us sort of the gateway to rural Dubuque County. As far as you look at the Western Dubuque system, you know, you're hitting us first before you're going to Epworth, Barley. Everybody's going out there to ride. Why not capitalize on that, help our businesses, help our people kind of gain from that? I mean, you know, especially with what we're coming out of and everything that's going on right now, give them the opportunity to kind of make some of that back. Really allow us to kind of be the rural town we are while kind of embracing all the changes. I do have a map here that shows all of the counties that have allowed the UTV ATVs. It's roughly 50% of the counties are on there. We are completely surrounded by it. So it's really, I think, time to kind of embrace that. It's coming, it's happening. Again, I mentioned all these other towns that have allowed it. And it really gives us the opportunity to maximize what's happening. A lot of people are buying them. They've become a big thing. And, you know, it's given families a chance to get out and go. With that, any questions, comments?
Is common area is you do not something that we have coming into the industrial park around the block now and how they live the spirit of the out. I kind of agree with this scenario. I understand it was a county room. Somebody's been ATVs. But to me, that's a bigger higher more than one. The lady in 35, which is somebody for the gas, it's more than 4.
And when I look at a lot of the ATVs and UTVs and the accessories that we have to have, right? You have to have headlights, you have to have tail and brake lights, you have to have your flag, which is 6 feet off the ground, or at least 1 foot higher than your ATV, whichever is higher. Those are things like a motorcycle wouldn't really have. I mean, yes, they have headlights and taillights, but a motorcycle has 1 taillight. motorcycle has 1, maybe 3 headlights, depending on your Harley and the setup. I guess it's not completely just Harleys, it would have potentially 3, but you know, when you see the bigger Harleys, yes, they may have 3, but I have 2 that are set up very similar to a car. I mean, honestly, a UTV is set up very similar to a car. And so I think to your point, I understand the concern, but when you really look at a UTV and what's coming on them and how they're set up, I think they look a lot like a car. And quite frankly, I'm less concerned about that than, you know, bicycle traffic and stuff. And you have kids riding bicycles through there as well, you know, and, you know, I think we're much more easily seen than a lot of things that are taking those roundabouts. So everybody else has kind of went with the ATV UTV, and I don't know if we want to fully piggyback off everyone else, but the UTVs and the ATVs have kind of went hand in hand. When you look at the county rules, when you look at a lot of the town rules. So what we are talking about specifically are both ATVs and UTVs, which 4-wheelers would fall into that category. But again, they have to have all their headlights, taillights, all of that has to happen, the flags, to be able to ride on any of the county roads, which is how they're going to access our town and how you know, anybody from Peosta is going to go out. So they're going to have to abide by those rules. Correct. 18 or over.
The registration.
That would be through this DNR. Yep, DNR. Yep, everybody's went with an 18 or over policy on who's driving it. You know, they have requirements on time of day to help with a lot of the safety concerns. You know, it's usually 5 a.m. to dusk. There are some changes depending on towns, but most of them are approximately 5 a.m. to dusk. So, you know, they're addressing those safety concerns in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I'm open to the discussion for the concept of it, but I do have a lot of concerns. I spoke with Marlene and our chiefs about the issues that they faced. And they said there wasn't a lot of issues, but they have had issues with just a couple of them were drinking on big old cars and UTVs, too many people, as in some of the families would put their kids on with them, and they would actually have a seat for them on it. Again, this is just what the chiefs have told me, the issues that they had in their time. Again, it wasn't a lot. Registration violations, driving on unauthorized roads. That's if you have put roads, certain roads, you don't want them on certain roads. They still, tend to, you're going to have some road breakers that that's just what it is. The other thing they said the horseplay and Outback Sunset. So some of the restrictions they have in the towns, Sunrise to Sunset, they do provide the registrations. DNR and the city, I believe, they do their own registration for the city also. They abide by all DNR county laws and restrictions. And I could be wrong on this, but I believe it's 18 and older. Is that correct? Okay. That's what they go by, is 18 and older. And what some of the chiefs were saying that is, or what the chiefs have told me, that, you're getting some young kids that go on, are going to have the certain times where they don't have a lot of problems with it, but they do have some problems. Now, to answer about Peosta Street out there, I agree. I think Peosta Street is a very busy area. What I'm talking is Cat Drive on south for the businesses. There's a lot of trucks, semi-traffic going on the Cat Drive. NSPC traffic is a concern of mine. Also, you get minutes morning in after classes, and then they have a second shift of classes for all night. I think some of them go to 10, some of them go to like 10:30. And then you just have regular business traffic, and business traffic that's in the area. Correct. It's just, in my opinion, it's very busy in that area all day long. Now, on weekends and nights, it's hit and miss, where it wouldn't be as busy. But during the daytime, it's pretty busy. You can see that. As for Birds Road, I guess my opinion on ours are we have two schools. You know, obviously we have Seton School and we have Peosta Elementary. We have, you know, the bus traffic going in the morning and leaving. We have the pickup traffic, you know, when the parents go to pick up the kids, and then the regular day-to-day traffic, first road streets. So those are my concerns with it. That's my 2 cents. I'm open to the concept. I have a lot of concerns that need to be addressed.
What kind of city administration do they have?
I believe that we're, Jesse might know this better. Okay, you go ahead.
Government does not have any city registration either.
They go like DNR.
Yes, but Farley has a $10 city registration, but it seems like when I was talking to people, honestly, people, they tend to be required to have it, the cracks seem to be pretty in on it, and people are coming in. But as you are a city resident, you are required to pay the $10 for a city registration. And Farley.
But part of that was because Farley started it before the county had it. So that was their way to keep track of how many people, machines were in their town, and they could gain a little revenue from it. At this point, with the county being open, I don't think it makes sense to do any type of city registration. Just your Iowa DNR, you're 18 with a valid driver's license, add that in there. It's not just, if you're over 18, you can drive, you still have to have a valid driver's license and liability insurance.
I think, one of the things that I talked to a lot of other people about, and as far as like the towns and stuff, one of the problems that they do have with HGTVs are underage or people driving late. That's the one thing we have. We want it to be legal, we want it to be right, we want it to be gay right. And I know, like, we just came from Wisconsin over the weekend, we're up and running ATVs, and they just made it law, state law, why even you can now ride on an ATV unless it's a factory two-seater. You can't put 2 people on it. I mean, I think that's important, I think that's safety, but I guess I'm just pointing out that a lot of the safety issues we have are people riding illegally. You know, those people that are riding illegally, whether we say it's okay or not, they're not. And that's where you've got people that, I guess, when us in this space, I'm gonna follow the laws, I have 2 little kids, we like just go out as a family to go get ice cream at night. You know, we just drive to Edwards, a little gas station. I'm a mom that drops my kids off to school, and my boys already asked me, Mom, do you think you can take us to school on this? And I told my oldest son, we're not going to Farley that early in the morning, but, you know, I mean, but I do, you know, I do drive it in TV, it's a 4-seater, you know, I speak of it. Goes to the old child.
From 21.
Yeah, all the way through.
21 all the way west.
Absolutely.
So at junction 21, you have to turn on the sundown road.
Yeah.
To continue.
Is that city? Is it city?
No, that was just the supervisors made that the cutoff line, just to keep people a little farther away from the city of, just to give a cushion. But you can drive Hunky Road and come all the way up to Cycle. So it's, I don't.
We actually have a map there for the county that's put it off, just as well as that map with the states. I just wanted to give it the counties that have legalized it. We're completely surrounded, bigger counties that fall in them. Or more, dense than, you know, what would be around here. I also printed off and I do have the, their ordinance online is up to date. They just put out an ordinance updates to their ordinance 2 weeks ago. I got that from one of the residents in Edwards, but that's on there too as well. Farley, Cascade is all in there too. Just for your guys' reference as well.
I just want to I'm not opposed to the there's just all things that very different. We have just too many roads that are shut, that's super unusual, it's not a traditional grid. Which I would provide an alternate way to where it is. So that's not favorable. And also we have here 2,000 people. Only in the challenge of those other communities. I don't think they're insurmountable, but I think the actually is good, but it doesn't. It doesn't still have to still, you know, we just all right. It's providing more. I don't know some area, but this area it makes it it's different. We're going to work hard to get these where no Because if the someone has an engineers, they're located on the community garden side, they live in the city park. And there's private lake in that community, so I would say to say that there's very few, if any, negative impacts, there certainly is. It totally is. And I have a dozen legal places or people only get around. That is where we have. So we have to learn it. We do have to learn this conversation. Because individually it does happen. So how do we, if this is a road, how we certainly have to mitigate that there's one, it is one. And I just go next year in these recommendations.
Now, the biggest concern on semis not hitting ATVs, it's still got to count that they're still following the speed limit on these roads, rural highway. What's the difference between a 8,000-pound semi versus, in town slower?
Yeah, and you're right. I don't think it's all different. Basically, we have to have a lot of conversations about traffic cluster that we have over there. It doesn't have anything to do with ATVs, but yeah, they're weird. And so in the future, we're going to grow with them. Well, adding anything to that is just a little bit concerning. We're figuring out, we expect a lot of dollars over the next 3 years to untangle what is massive traffic jam every day. For 3 to 4. And so that's not necessarily.
On that time frame, I still think that the majority of riders is going to be at night afterward and on weekends.
Yeah.
And our town is very dead on weekends.
Right.
I think.
So even that's. Yeah. Like I said, we really just, as a just probably had a addiction of non-restrictional factors would not be why.
Yeah, I don't think these are a daily commuter, I mean, as much as you might like to save a little on gas, most people aren't going to want to drive them to and from work.
Yeah, somebody could use it as a replacement of their car.
I guess what I'm saying is to allow people the access to benefit the businesses. You're going to benefit the businesses around mealtime, those evening times, more so than at 2 to 4:30 on a Monday through Friday. So to still gain a lot of the benefits, I think you could set ordinances that say, hey, you can't drive Monday through Friday between these hours and still gain a lot of benefits for the businesses.
I think also that effort, they don't allow them to be at school. There's a school footprint basically no trespass. UTVs cannot be on school property because they would have had a lot of problems with school kids driving to school or in the parking lot. There would have been a lot of problems going on. So I do know they have that policy in place.
I talked to a few moms and they driven their kids to school with their backward path and they drive all their backward path. And I don't think it's fair to bring it in the pickup line there. Even this crosswalk here is not a good idea.
Does it during the?
We know how the annexation, plans annexation forward, that this is a big issue to other rules and footage. So we heard that conversation. And we know there's a way to do the safety.
With the golf course over in Thunder Hills, how are you guys gonna, you guys are wanting Thunder Hills to annex to the city, how are you guys gonna restrict golf carts on roads over there? Because there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
From Virgin Acres, Thunder Hills, and Thunder Ridge that ride over there on the roads.
Right. As I know, we could buy services with, unfortunately, the businesses now do support that time. There's a ton of stuff. And not a lot of stuff. I know it's not fair to say, yes, we'll compare. It's not out there. So, that's one thing. Yes.
I don't know, you got motorcycles driving through the roundabout that are small and hard to see. My 14-year-old son on his moped can drive anywhere he wants in the state. He can jump on a bicycle and go right through the roundabout.
I think the comment again becomes when you add to it, when are you adding to it? And most of these are for recreational use. I think we can all agree, right? We're not, for the most part, commuting. Not saying that it won't happen, right? I mean, there's always going to be that person that tries to push that rule. But when you look at it, the hours that we're talking about being the heaviest traffic that we're concerned about, and I think we're all concerned about that, are probably the least trafficked with your ATV, UTV use on most days. When you look at your nights and weekends, when they're going to be most likely used, is the time that you're probably seeing the least amount of traffic in the heavily congested area. I'm not saying every day, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit there.
Has there been a traffic count study done ever, like for times and numbers of cars?
There's no count. We do have that speed radar that's over by Junior, Peosta Street, and that does read vehicles that go through each. Yup, and the last one was, don't quote me on it, but I want to say it's like 26 or 30,000 vehicles within that time frame. Don't quote me on the time, but it's like within a month or 6 weeks. Correct.
Just one more. Right?
Yes, you're right.
So it's a comment. That's really really taking the fact that. So there's a lot of.
No, and I completely agree with traffic. I mean, as far as like hours, 15 hours, I think I completely agree that it makes sense. And will that be, I mean, will that be acceptable? I'm just. Obviously, like a long ago, but you think that if there was time that is 4 p.m. flat downtime, would that be?
I think during the week, Monday through Friday, I don't think most people would have an issue with it. If you were to do that on Saturday and Sunday as well, I think you would probably limit some. But as far as on weekdays, I honestly don't see that being an issue at all. I personally don't have a problem with that. Just when you look at a UTV, seatbelts. I can't disagree with that. I mean,
You already brought the line with you, well, cars and you know.
And if you look at a lot of the ordinance, they're very specific on what defines a UTV or ATV. Again, they pull a lot of that from the county. You would have to be, I think, a little more specific with that, but I definitely think it's doable.
That was the county had a dog park ordinance, right? Somebody drives up in the ordinance, they're all in there, they would go to vehicles.
If that would be the starting point, that could get rolling and see how that goes. And then later day down the road, you try the ATVs.
No, when you look at some of the UTVs, they're 20,000. Better safety features than most kids have nowadays. You know what I mean? So.
And they're in better shape.
Yeah.
This is a bad.
Not to say that they're not safe, but I mean, as long as it's bigger end. I put restrictions.
Yeah, they're definitely like a small car. I mean, in all reality, they're probably the same size as, was it the Chevy Love used to be? I mean, in all reality, they're probably bigger than a Geo Metro. So.
Yeah, or a smart car, bigger than a smart car.
Staff, the chief and the mayor, put some kind together. What they're thinking. And bring it up, because it's coming up now, you know. Then what? Then that's what you. Then your recommendation, maybe,
So, I have another question, if I may. How does the county deal with UTVs, ATVs, or golf carts on the county trails, like Heritage Trail?
No,
Nothing.
nothing. Just snowmobiles in the winter.
I completely agree with that. I think that, well, jumping to mobilities, especially limitations, it doesn't want people to leave. And all of us have been guilty at some point in our life of getting behind a closed door and being a little bit less careful. So I think keeping it all up is a safer bet. I mean, as far as like, you don't want those torn up, never people, all types of things that most, no county trails.
Okay.
Just to kind of add to that, almost every ordinance we've read through, no sidewalks are explicitly pointed out. Just to make sure people don't think that because it is able to fit, you're not cruising down the sidewalks.
No ditches, no side of the road. Is it most of the ordinances, you can't drive.
So I want to make sure we bring Karen Lyons in, since she's not here in person. Karen, did you have anything to add to this conversation? I realize that the room might be getting difficult to hear.
But we hear you well.
I really didn't hear hardly any of the discussion, so I might be repeating what's already been said. But my main concern right now is they're going to start that construction on Swiss Valley Road and Highway 20. And that's going to be a major upset for the whole area. And I don't know that we need to be dealing with that kind of problem right now, because Peosta Street is bad for traffic. It's not safe. And I don't know, you know, with the construction that's going to be going on, I'd like to see us not do much of anything until after they get the Southwest Arterial open and get Swiss Valley Road and 20 interchange up and running to know what we're going to have. That's all I got to say.
Okay, you're thinking that once the Southwest Arterial gets up, the traffic on Peosta Street will be less?
I don't know, possibly. It might change a lot of patterns. That's what I'm saying. It might change patterns, but that work on Swiss Valley Road going to 20 is going to affect a lot of the county roads in the first place. And I think it'll make it a little more dangerous for us until they get it done too. So to add to that, I don't want to do anything to add to that. But I don't know what our traffic patterns will be after those projects are done. I don't know. It might be better, it might be worse. Was there a question?
This was some of the discussion earlier that you may have had a hard time hearing. There was discussion about maybe having blackout times, potentially from say 4 to 7 in the afternoon on weekdays to try to address that concern.
I don't know. It's something to think about, I guess, but I'm really not for the whole idea, to be honest. I'd rather have the kids safe.
So,
What was that?
you would think kids are not legally driving them. So I guess we'll try to wrap this up. Everybody here and all the council members have had a chance to speak and hear what you've got to say. First off, I really appreciate the way you've approached the council with the mission statement ahead of time. Your approach to this, I think, has been very professional. It's clear you're trying to do this in a way that it works for all parties involved. So thank you for that. I don't think you were coming here for an answer tonight, right? But to start the discussion. Sorry to let you down. If you weren't already thinking of this, I'd say you've got a lot of feedback from the council and other members from the community on what concerns are here specific to Peosta. And what I might suggest to you is just look at so we act best when we've got an ordinance of some sort. We have language in front of us that we can adopt. So if you were able to take these concerns, look around at other communities who have worked through some of these issues and come back to us with what you would like to see adopted as Peosta code, and just make sure as you do it, you're addressing the concerns that we've shared. And that might help us move this to the next step forward. Does that sound like a good plan? One other thing I'll make sure that we got in mind, if you weren't already aware, we're about to go into a phase of comprehensive planning and parks and trails planning. So there's going to be a significant community effort on trying to define what we want our city to look like at different points in the future. If ATV, UTV is a big part of that, then I would just encourage you, make sure you've got people coming and speaking at these, that you're present in those activities. Stay very engaged, because the first step of that is understanding what the community needs. It sounds like there's a fair constituency where that's important. So it's another good opportunity, and we may try to align some of that decision-making with that comprehensive planning, because if there are specific needs, that would be our way to incorporate those into the city. Sound good? Yeah, and I'm really glad you weren't standing outside in the rain. So as we try to manage the number of people in the room to stay compliant, thank you for understanding and being willing to work with us. You bet. You bet. We may want to, since this is going to be an ongoing dialogue, we may want to try to set a cadence as opposed to getting peppered with a little bit at every meeting. We might try to be deliberate about that. But sure, I think this should be expected to be a series of communications, a series of events where we each get together and learn a little bit more and then do some more homework. And you're hearing why we want to do something different for City Hall. All right. Are we good for that topic for now? All right. Thank you very much. All right. Sure. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so that wraps up the discussion on the ATV, UTV. The space study is done, so I think let's look at going back now. Yep, you bet. So Adam, I think you're on the phone. It looks like you're unmuted. It's getting to be a long meeting. I appreciate your patience while we worked people through in the building here. Go ahead and take the floor, Adam.
No problem. Can everyone hear me okay? I know there's a little bit of issue trying to hear some of the folks in the room, but can you guys hear me okay?
You're loud and clear, Adam.
Perfect. And I believe you guys have your packet for the proposal there, so I'm going to run through that, and I'm getting some feedback, and I'll try my best to run through this, and I'm going to start with page 2. So on there, this discussed the employer's liability, and I know there's always some concerns that, hey, we only have $1 million of coverage here. What happens if we have a work comp incident that goes over the $1 million? This is a specific coverage, it's related to the work comp, but it's not related to an employee that gets hurt at work and limits their medical pay or indemnity time off of work pay, okay? What this is covering, for example, is an employee that ends up having an incident, and then, for example, their spouse were to sue the city, for example, loss of consortium. Okay, this is what this is going to cover. Your umbrella also goes over top of this. To give you an idea, we've had 2 of these claims even brought to light in our agency since we started in 1862. So not a big concern, but you have $1 million of coverage there, okay? And this also is through IMWCA, and this starts July 1st, 2020. So I'm going to go to page 3. And this is a breakdown, and I'm not going to go line by line, as you guys can see it in front of you, of what the work comp classes are and what our exposures or payrolls are for 2019 moving forward to 2020. To give you an idea, the payrolls or the exposure, those are up just slightly based off of last year. And then the rates you can see for 2019 compared to 2020, those are set by the state with the help of NCCI, who's a governing body over work comp here in Iowa. IMWCA, they do not actually follow NCC guidelines, and they're not subject to those rules, but they do adapt the rates on how to come up with those, and they use the standard rate, okay, that's set. So you can see how those compare for the different class codes, 2019 compared to 2020. And then you can see the subtotal is a little lower for the premium for 2020, and that's strictly because the rates as a whole went down compared to what they were in 2019. Where you see the experience modification factor, this is specific to the city's payrolls as well as claims history rolling back 3 years. They're going to exclude the most recent year and then go back 3 years. You can see in at the very bottom of that page, 2018, 19, and 2020s, what those experience mod factors are. 1 is average. Anything above 1 means we're trending worse than our peers. Anything below 1, we're trending better. So you can see we have a 1.24, which means we're taking the 24% increase on top of that subtotal. So you can see where it says modified premium, and it equals right around $21,500. That's strictly because we're having to tack on 24% just due to our claims history in the past. Okay, IMWCA is also offering some discounts there, and then that brings us down to the discounted premium, and then the expense constant. That is something that's always included in the work comp premium. And then you can see what our 2020 versus 2019 total premium is going to be. And understand this is an estimate because we had to estimate what the payrolls are going to be for 2020 to 2021 fiscal year. So that's always audited after the policy period. So this is, again, just an estimate, and it's only estimated based off of if we have a change in the payrolls. Questions that I can help address?
We're gonna do what?
Was there a specific claim incident that happened that caused that to go up?
Could you repeat the question? I apologize. I could not hear it.
The question was if there is a specific incident that happened that caused that to go up, that caused the experience modification factor to go up.
Yep, great question. So I'm going to go through, and you don't have this in front of you, but I can definitely get this in your guys' hands. 2016 to 2017, we had a work comp incident. It only totaled $647. The 17 to 18, we had 2 of them that totaled $21,787.66. And then in 2018 and 19, we had another one that was around $4,400. All those factoring in are going to cause that experience mod to go up a little bit. I don't have in front of me what the actual 15 to 16 years were. I'm guessing that we dropped a good year and added that 18 and 19 year for $4,400, which caused it to go up about 4 points. But I can definitely get you the comparison for the 2019 experience mod compared to the 2020 experience mod. So that way you guys can review that.
Yeah, because it seems like a pretty decent number, only had $100 that came on. Did the 17 to 18 losses maybe jump? Was a reserve that maybe closed out at a higher rate?
Was the question, was there rate, did the reserves get raised in 17 and 18?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering if there was a reserve on the 17-18 policy that was set lower and it actually closed out higher.
It could possibly be that. I actually am just looking at how they calculated the mod, and I'd have to look at the 17-18 last year mod, or that year for the last year's mod compared to this year's to see if those were higher or lower. But I can definitely get that for you, John.
Okay, thank you. And one last question is, with the descriptions, are there any like trends, slips, falls, something that we need to concentrate more on?
I don't think for the instances that are occurring that there was anything that we could say, hey, it can be attributed to one specific thing. Unfortunately, what we're seeing trends is one was a preventable accident that happened a few years back that's not included on this mod, and it's been addressed. And then also another claim that occurred was strictly just an accident that happened. It was a slip and fall type of an accident where I believe we had a knee injury. One thing that we've implemented is a safety committee to where we're reviewing these accidents to say, okay, what can we do moving forward to try to prevent these? And then also investigating them, not in a way to say, hey, we're going to investigate and why did you do this and you're in trouble. It's more, hey, what can we do to try to help mitigate these losses in the future?
Okay. That's all I got. You good?
Other council members, anything to add? We're appreciating having an insurance guy on the council.
I do too.
Whitney, Whitney, anything to add?
No.
Because I know a lot of times what you can do other policies, if you see a trend, like I said, slips and falls, if we start to say $5,000 is that anything?
Adam, were you able to hear John's question?
I was not.
Okay, so I'm just
Hang on.
if you developed and saw a trend in claims, say, we have 3 slips and fall cases or something like that. Have you ever seen these guys put like a $5,000 deductible on, say, slips and falls?
I haven't seen it for them. We can definitely review deductibles. The issue is for the size that the city is, and we're fully insured, we're not self-funded, we can put a medical only deductible on, but you're not going to see any credit for that unless IMWCA does some things a little different. And they do, but I typically don't see it to where we're going to save that money and see that benefit for putting a deductible on the medical only.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking, John?
Yeah, exactly.
But I can ask to see how they would structure the program, if they would actually give premium credit or not.
I don't think it's necessary because I don't think we can establish a trend of what our claims are.
To be clear, I think
the result of the conversation in the room here is I don't think we don't need any further action from you, right? Okay, so don't feel like you need to follow up with any more information. And then the action is to the council to approve the workman's comp renewal, right? And Karen, we'll look for yours.
Karen, I.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Again, Adam, thanks for being patient with us.
No problem. Take care. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. So we'll just acknowledge here, we had the GDDC presentation on the agenda. There was a family emergency for our presenter, so we're going to push that to the next regular meeting that he can attend. He, right? Yeah, that he can attend. So we will skip the GDDC presentation today. And we'll look now for an update on the Peosta Pays program and a budget request. And Kelly, I think you're presenting that. Are you on the webcast as well? So I think we're learning through some feedback on the chat that the only people they can really hear are the ones that are sitting right in front of the laptop. So I think we may ask you to put yourself, we could bring it to you over there if that would work better. Or do you want to come sit here? Thank you, Mike. Just watch out for the power button. Yep. That would be my luck.
Okay, well, when Peosta Pay started, you started your checking account with $2,000, which you currently have $110 in. And these are all the ones to process. So it has been a very successful program. So I think probably what we want to see now is, does the city council want to continue to invest in this program? Do you have a timeline? The question that I feel like we keep continuously getting asked is, how long is this program going to be in existence? So I think that's a great question. When it was initiated, obviously we've got a couple different circumstances with the COVID-19 stuff going on, and nonprofit, will you want to continue that maybe through this? Again, all questions. And yeah, total number of like dollars. You betcha. And we have several people who have maxed out their $500. $18,552.93 have come in receipts. So that's, yeah. It started, I believe, April 17th is when we issued our very first Peosta Pays. But I want to say the receipts had to be dated April 8th or later.
Because I would see, we know you can't quantify how much additional than that money that's spent. But I'd love to figure that out.
To see what, John? I'm sorry.
I'd love to if there's a way we can figure out of the $18,000, $12,000 was already been spent, and we had a net gain of $6,000 to the business. Dollars really way to qualify.
Yeah, we don't know what percentage. The big thing about this.
I think we believe that this is on because we'll kind of go without. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Is there a way to sustain this without continuing to work on it? Or is it?
So I think.
No, this is good.
Unfortunately, I think this additional funding. Unfortunately, this happens to be one time, or whatever, so this year, I think, the worst time to, set up. You know, it's just not enough time that I to go forward with that. I mean, I sort of feel like this is the city's role at this point. Currently, that, I think that, us being certainly don't want that to be the long-term plan. You want the shareholders, I don't know, years, like, work with time. So we want the nonprofit. And so then, every year, like your invoice, your equipment, again, regularly, $500,000. So, and then, in the nonprofit, we have its own budget. So X amount of that dollars would be earmarked to support Peosta State, a certain amount would be advertising, certain amount marketing, welcome initiatives. So, we need to develop that. So I think it's more a decision for the council. We kind of threw this thing online really quickly. And so I don't see another way to fund it today than through this program. Now, I think in a number of months, I don't know how long this economic recovery is. I think it's also helps build the legitimacy of the nonprofit though. So then when we are approaching our businesses about being partners, it's sort of, oh, this is a group that can halfway function. Because when you have guys like the executives out at the, they're all businessmen, they're winners, they want to be part of other winning initiatives. So I think it does help. Yeah, it's not a deal though, Jeremy. You're exactly right. That would never be how you would plan, like, oh, this is just going to be funded. But I mean, I don't want to go for.
Is there more data that we need to capture versus information, to kind of build our business case? But when it does go down to go down that road, we have the information we need.
That's a good question.
Keep track of all the different receipts that come in for all the different businesses. So we can, actually bring it out, hey, this is X amount over 6 weeks, which is your store. So is there any feedback or anything that you can do? Because obviously it's improving the system, improving it brings people to your door or help sell through. Is there anything that you can do for us to do? You might repeat the question.
So what Jerry is asking is there a way that we can track receipts to indicate where dollars are being spent and what businesses? And yes, to your question, anyone who submits anything online through our Google Doc, I've been able to save all of those receipts so that we know going forward that there's no duplication of receipts. So what I currently have is also tracking of any fairway because we have a maximum dollar amount on that. So we know fairway. We certainly have all of the receipts attached. So we certainly could go back and with the help, I'm sure of, like Shandi and stuff, we could put together simple Excel spreadsheets that indicate what receipts, we all have. So we've got them all. So absolutely, if that's what something that would be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like a good reasonable sort of shareholder
We're going to be way forward. Use alarms and everything. Hey, this is X amount of dollars to get into this program. If we can get that something, and then just a lot of returning skills. I think it shows good partnership with the city, with businesses, and then we get to that point of nonprofit going out and asking for donations for the nonprofit, that we have something to prove to show them, hey, you know, this is how much money that the city pays back to your company. So I'm with John, I'd like to see it continue.
Well, and I'll give you a nice example of, I had a brief conversation with the gentleman of D&D Auto, who I believe was looking at doing something similar as far as matching. So you can only turn in a maximum of $1,000 for one particular business at a time, which means if they bought a $2,000 car, they can only turn in the receipts up to $1,000, which is $100 in greenbacks. So what Doug from D&D Auto was looking at doing is matching that $100. So he's saying, if you come to my business and you spend this, so we know businesses are wanting or at the right time probably going to want to participate or have this continue. So I feel like, you know, just hearing that shows that, you know, they would like to see something continue. It's probably pretty hard right now. The hair shop just opening, your boutique has not even opened as of yet. So I guess what I'm hopeful for is, even though we maybe not at this point are not seeing the receipts, we'll see where they're cashing these checks. We'll know that they're taking them to the businesses. So that'll be another tracking that says, you know, we'll be getting bank statements that are going to say, oh, they spent, you know, not only at Fairway, but they spent $50 of their greenbacks at the boutique, or, you know, $20 at the hair salon. So, and how it's set up currently is, which we're finding is going through a lot of checks, but they're only issued in $10 increments. So it allows people to take their checks, so maybe distribute them amongst the businesses in Peosta. $10 here, $10 here. So, you know, and maybe it is $20 at one, but they have a choice then to take them and distribute them, you know, among different businesses. And it doesn't say, well, so you earned $30, but here's a $30 check. Instead, you get 3 $10 checks and you can take them. So
I think maybe some conversation having in November, December, overall strategy. No, we need to see the help. State tax credits are things. But I think, but then this, you know, Peosta, you know, we are local, small, locally owned business. I think from this point forward, we have to have we will regular annual plan by our council. So that's who we're going to have in families. How that is a big thing for cash. But it is right now. We spread us out of the world. That's
So you're asking approval for a dollar amount, for $50,000 for the patient program?
Yeah, my recommendation would actually be $3,000 to make it $5,000. Have it then. Next year, or whatever you guys think.
Well, we just went through $2,000 on one side.
Oh, I heard 810 also.
So, I mean.
no.
We just shy of 2,000 in 6 weeks.
with that being said, so let's just put it on all these three rankings. Are we no, no, we need somebody to get a chance where we start. Because it's not like it's figuring it out.
I mean, I think I personally feel better about having this conversation with businesses about starting. People that you see that. And at this point, you have now that you can go in there and say, right now, I have to see. Well, that was my question, how long, right, yeah. No, I don't know. All you have to
So $5,000 is small dollar. I mean, if that can help out a business, to help keep its doors open. From that year's time.
So with the discussion in here, I'm going to repeat a little bit because I'm assuming those on the virtual meeting aren't hearing all the discussion, but a lot of discussion around the statistics to date. We seeded it with $2,000 in 6 weeks. We have spent nearly all of that. And so we consider it to be a success at driving more local business, engaging with the businesses. And whereas we would typically want to kick this off and have it become self-sustaining through contributions, the reason we felt rushed to get it started is the same reason why it's not probably the right time to ask for those contributions yet. So the action to us is to the decision to continue to put some money in until we can get to a point where it is more appropriate to look for those contributions. And it sounds like the suggestion or the request to the council right now is for $3,000, expecting that would get us another 8 weeks. Did I misrepresent anything in there, that summary?
And I think that will, lead her to the board and the conversation. I think buy the time for that, and then, permission and the next steps. Or you can do it by that. Yeah, that's what you guys can do.
I will make a motion to approve the hours. We paid it last week. Program.
Karen, the motion's to you for $3,000, additional $3,000, totaling $5,000 between the two contributions to the Peosta Pays program.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you. Just a quick note, Kelly, I know that was a lot of really creative work figuring out how to set this up and start tracking it. Thank you very much. And do it from home. Thank you very much for making that the success it is. So I've bounced around, but I think the last item we haven't covered prior to citizen comment is the building permit for NICC main building addition. And I think the action here is we are to approve it. And yes?
Karen, aye.
All right. That goes through have I missed anything, Karen?
No.
All right. Thank you. We are at the citizen comment part, and there have been some comments coming in the chat. So I'm going to ask for a minute to make sure we look at these. Other than the difficulty hearing people, I really apologize for that. We'll be exploring other alternatives. Kayla and Charlene Waterman, you've put a couple posts in here. I see you're online as well. Would you like to take the floor and speak? Or would you like me to read your comments? If you're trying to talk, please make sure you take it off of mute. Okay. I know they can't be read in the room, so I'm going to read what I've got on the screen here. From Kalen Shalen Waterman, we wanted to talk to the board in regards to speeding up the process of getting water and sewer to the lots on Cox Springs Road being annexed into the city. We will be building and need to do so soon because we're building it ourselves and it will take more time, but we need to be completed by November 2021 as we plan to put my business, a salon, in our house. And the second comment says we want to start building yet this summer. I'll ask one more time since I see you're online. If you take yourself off mute, anything else you'd want to add?
We don't need to add anything at this time.
Okay, good to hear you. Thanks for speaking up and thanks for your patience tonight.
No
So,
problem.
I think at least for now, to quickly address your concern, the city has no interest in delaying the annexation process. In fact, if anything, there's an incentive for us to make it go faster as well. So rest assured, our interests are aligned. I'm trying to think what the next step might be, Whitney, for them to stay engaged.
Well, so she's not.
Okay.
There were the time of sure apartment house. You know, we don't have, now with that also practical. That's the other side of the annexation point is, it's not just on state property, it's provided. So it's a little different than as we talked about before, and we really did the whole for the property, so that was a little bit easier than the right now. But these other properties, and again, it's all, you know, good for stuff, you know, the housing and ideas about how we not really crazy relationship, being able to take it all over so the direction we go, I think we their request to just be able to accelerate the timeline.
What's the timeline?
Well, we haven't really discussed it, I guess. I don't think there is.
So there's a timeline, at least an anticipated timeline, something we're trying to aim for as far as the annexation process, right?
Right.
And the annexation process necessarily must precede us doing any infrastructure work. We can't do the work on somebody else's property or non-annexed property. So we know it won't start any sooner then, but we don't know what kind of delay or what else what else would need to happen after the annexation passes a certain threshold. Okay.
So, can we have the design and then, so the moment it's we can move forward on that? That's not the quickest we can do.
Yes. Yeah, and I think just to be clear, I think that's the most reasonable. I think
The county gonna do anything with the
so they're going to have to sell this year. We have an estimated next summer. No, and I just don't think we can bring that up. But
So that would work out well, that we would do the infrastructure work before we do the paving. So that timing is good, related to Cox Springs. Okay.
So can it be different building folks? Saying you don't want to get the sewers, the folks that are be, then we, at least the factory would be competitive. And then we start moving on design.
yeah, and I have numbers that we will from first thing, we have that, and we also have that whole, conceptual design, and I think we started with the that is good for that. We have a couple numbers, but yeah, I can have just brush up. I mean, it's not, it's not what you're really costly, but I think it's simple enough for your water.
I just know we basically done on the land building. It's really cheap, right?
Yeah.
It's not price versus normal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The contractors are looking for stuff. A lot of design. That's just out for when you deal.
So I realize online you may not be hearing all of the discussion, but it seems like we keep coming up with more reasons why we're aligned with doing this as quickly as possible. The question was, when do you need it by? And what I'm reading in here is you intend to start building this summer and you want to be complete by November of 2021.
Correct.
Those are the only two, those are the only two timeframes I see.
So I guess the question is, in a perfect world, when do you want the services?
Could you
Okay,
hear that okay?
unfortunately, the only person that I can hear is the gentleman with the goatee with the white checked shirt that's the camera's on. That's the only person I can hear.
Yeah, thank you for not saying white goatee.
I said white shirt.
The question was, if you were to pick a date, when would it be optimal, or what's the latest that it would still be helpful for you without excessively delaying you, I guess would be a way to put it, for water and sewer connections, those services. And you are back on mute, by the way. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, the sooner the better. With us wanting to start building this summer, do you think you're going to do it yet this year, or is it going to be next spring? What?
Yeah, I mean, next spring is, because we have
So all of this, all of this is dependent on the annexation process. I think you understand that. And while we can do the bidding and design work ahead of time, we can't start with the dirt until the annexation process is complete.
Okay.
And right now, we're expecting that to be in the October timeframe. So it may be a bit weather dependent as well. But there are incentives to try to get this going as soon as we can, because we understand this might be a very favorable market for that kind of construction.
Okay, so the last time I spoke with Whitney, she said the annexation had been passed by an 80-20 rule. Is that?
Yeah, we're gonna have Whitney come over and answer that.
Sorry, so the annexation, yeah, it's been, the applications have been accepted by the city, but the process now, though, is dictated by the Iowa code. So once it's accepted by the city, there is then a checklist of things that have to be done. So yeah, so it's from a city perspective, we're good to go, but we have to provide notice, it's gotta be published, then there's waiting periods, and then it goes to the state. And the state has their own process of waiting periods and publication and notifying everyone. So that's why the extended process. It is 99% paperwork and formalities from here, but the timeline is entirely dictated by the Iowa code. So that's why it's going to be October. Everybody's agreed. There's nothing left to hash out. It just has to run through its red tape process. Bureaucracy at its finest.
So is there specific timelines that each of these people that it has to pass through along the way, is that already dictated? Like, can we get an estimated date as to when it will all have gone through state and everything and then proceed from there, or?
For the annexation,
Maybe by. Yeah, I don't have time, but this, yeah, by the next council meeting, I can have one. Right. Yeah, he can tell where the main is gonna be. And then that. Yeah. Yeah.
so I think the answer to your question is if you're good with it, we can follow up with you on a timeline. We've done some work on that. I think it needs to be updated. But there is a very specific process that needs to follow, and that's dictated not by us. And that specifies also certain waiting periods and public notices, so we have to follow that. But I think we're looking at later this fall.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So later this fall, as far as getting the annexation all complete and ready to go, and then from there you have to go and get bids for water and sewage. Is that what I was understanding?
So based on your request, I think what we're now considering is, even though the annexation is not complete, we can start the process of the design work and getting bids so that when the annexation is complete, we have everything ready to go for construction. That's a plausible thing.
Okay.
What we can't accelerate is the annexation. As soon as the annexation is done, we can try to be as prepared as possible to get those utility services to you.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's got to be kind of close with that subdivision being right there, right?
You're talking about behind the properties?
Right. Well, Birds is behind our lot, but to the south of us, that whole subdivision.
Right. Thunder Valley, yeah, you're right. It's not a terribly long run. I don't think it's going to be terribly complicated. And there's already been some casual thought about how we would do that. We would just need to formalize that with the engineering work.
Okay. So then Whitney's gonna email us an updated timeline on what you guys are thinking.
She's nodding her head yes, so I think that's a follow-up action item. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about while you got the floor?
The speeding on Birds Road. Can we get some speed bumps?
We'll monitor it as much as possible.
Well, we do have 5 signs.
Still in process.
They're out.
Oh.
So I think the answer to your question is speed bump, maybe not specifically, but there are speed signs like we have on Peosta Street that are out for bid right now, and those are intended for Cox Springs and Birds.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Yeah, because whoever purchases our home, we live on the corner of Mila and Birds, and I'm telling you what, people think they're still on the highway when they're going down Birds Road.
So Chief Comer is paying close attention to your commentary. He said he'll increase patrol in that area as well.
That would be excellent.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You bet. And thanks for your patience tonight, and thanks for dealing with our technical challenges.
No problem.
All right. Have a good evening. And I think the other ones are from Karen, and we've covered that. Karen, good night.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? All right, hearing nothing, we'll open this up for a motion to, a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
We got you, Karen. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there tonight.
This conference will now be recorded.